a biopsy completed. So as we know, Alan, that what, about 5% of us don't have the AMA antibody that's diagnosed on a biopsy. What would you say to this?
I mean, this is a tricky question, and this is how we call it gray zone. So we know that the guidelines mention that you need to have an elevated alk-phos and a positive AMA or biopsy findings of PBC. Because she has a positive AMA, there are two schools of thought, so two things that patient can do. Number one is they can follow their liver test. There is a good chance that she will eventually develop symptoms or either signs of abnormal liver tests in the future, PBC, and at that time, she can start treatment with ursodiol. But also there's another school of thought. Usually what I do is I offer my patients start urso starting early. Again, a positive AMA is very specific. I think you mentioned, Collette, so 95% of patients with PBC has a positive AMA. And there's really little things that I can do a false positive. So I would say this patient at some point either will develop biochemical abnormalities. What I mean is liver tests that are elevated, or they'll have histologic findings of PBC. So whatever makes it easier for that patient, either monitor the liver test twice a year with a primary care or GP, or start urso earlier, because again, there is really no downside of taking urso.
No, that's true. Would it be reasonable to say, and I have heard this a few times, I don't think it's come up in the questions, Alan, that some people are in this situation and they actually have symptoms of PBC. But so would it be right to say, and I'm not a doctor, as you know, that if people do have symptoms, that's probably a reason to go on urso? Or is there a probability that it could be another autoimmune liver disease? I mean, it's difficult, isn't it?
I think, Collette, the symptoms of PBC sometimes are very non-specific. So patients can present with severe fatigue. I would say, let's just work that fatigue, make sure that there's nothing else happening before I say I'm going to blame the fatigue on the PBC. But if the patient is coming with a lot of itching, the patient has, another autoimmune condition, they have hypothyroidism, or they have rheumatoid arthritis, and they have Sjogren's syndrome, and they have a positive AMA, that patient is most likely to develop or have PBC based on the serologies and in the clinical picture.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily one thing, it is a picture, as you're saying. Yeah, no, fair point. That's a really good answer. Thank you, Alan. So if that person, if there's anything else you want to add, don't hesitate to come back. So we go on. Thank you, Alan. I have experienced continuous ankle swelling in the past few months and I'm waiting for an ultrasound. What in particular do you look for when checking an ultrasound for a patient with PBC? Whoa. Wow.
All right, so this is a tricky question. So if you come in with a new diagnosis of PBC, we really stage them. So what we do is we do an elastography. We call it a FibroScan in the US, or I don't know, like an MR elastography. So we do want to get some type of staging to make sure they don't have fibrosis. So we are looking to rule out cirrhosis. If the patient has no evidence of advanced scarring or fibrosis, basically the swelling is coming from something else. But kind of tricky. PBC has a condition called NRH. Not a lot of people really look for it. It's called nodular regenerative hyperplasia, which causes what's called portal hypertension, even if you don't have cirrhosis. So we will have to rule that out in patients who come in with a new diagnosis of PBC. So in the ultrasound, what we look for is we look for evidence of portal hypertension. We look for like the spleen being big, or having fluid cholestasis, or other things that will just tell me or hint that there is more liver involvement of the disease.
No, I haven't heard of that before, and I wouldn't like to try and pronounce it either, I have to be honest with you, Alan. Right, that's quite interesting. Well, I hope that's answered your questions, especially. She says, I have read about portal vein measurements, spleen, fatty liver, etc., but what in particular is of importance? Probably all.
Again, it's just like, it's a clinical context, Collette. I would not focus just on imaging. So we want to see what the patient is coming to see us for. So the patient.
Well, we've lost you. Are you there, Alan? Don't leave us. We've lost. Oh, he's coming back in. Oh, thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so I would say that it's a clinical context. So I will not just focus on imaging. I would just focus on what are the patients coming with. So if they have clinical findings of liver disease plus a small or large portal vein plus fluid underbelly, fluid in the legs, that makes me think that the patient has more advanced disease. So I would say don't focus on just an imaging, just kind of have to put all the pieces together so we can give a good diagnosis.
Yeah, it's almost like a holistic picture, really. You're looking at the various aspects of whatever stage liver disease. So they're not looking at one thing, and that's really reassuring to know as well. Okay, thank you. So I've just discovered that my grandmother died of PBC at the age of 59. Oh, that's quite sad. My mother, now deceased, always told me she died of stomach cancer. Well, that's possible she had that too. I mean, is it hereditary at all? And that's a very good question. We get asked this a lot, Alan. Is it
there is some genetic part of PBC. So what we know in studies is that 20% of people with PBC pass it along, but it's more like in female gender. So if your mom had PBC, that daughter will have a 20% chance, or the sibling of that person, or the first relative, will have increased risk of PBC. So I do actually screen patients, or I do tell my patients that if they have a family member of PBC, most of the families, specifically like the female gender, should actually be screened with an AMA antibody to make sure they don't have the disease.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So although only 20%, which is quite a small percentage, we may have a first relative with PBC, is it important to say what's more common is that we have family members, even going out the way, cousins and all the rest of it, who may have other autoimmune conditions. Some you stated earlier, thyroid disease, rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's syndrome. I mean, and that's what I hear quite a lot. And I know from my own personal experience, I'm one of 7 children. The only one was PBC, but there's celiac and all sorts of things around me, with cousins and aunties and things. Is that a fair comment, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, again, if you look back at like the genetic origin of different autoimmune conditions, PBC comes with like the HLA, which is the genetic part of different common autoimmune conditions. So it shares sometimes different common places like rheumatoid arthritis, celiac disease, lupus, thyroid disease. So again, it's a spectrum, right? So again, if you have a family member who has thyroid disease and another family member with celiac disease, and you have a person with an elevated lactose and a positive AMA, I mean, it's very likely that the patient has PBC.
Yeah.
But again, as I'm saying, not every PBC that we have out there is genetic in origin. Again, it's only 20%. So we don't know. I think this is actually really an important question to ask.
Yeah.
What triggers the development of PBC? There's a viral theory. There is the ambiental theory. For example, you guys in the UK, for example, Newcastle, I don't know, there is a certain amount of environmental problems, same as New York City in the US, they have an increased risk of PBC. So we don't know. So again, it's just putting all the pieces together.
Yeah.
A patient who has the autoimmune conditions with an elevated lactose and a positive AMA makes me think more that patient will have PBC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But when I started this 25 years ago, we've just celebrated our anniversary, Alan, last week. And there was no such thing as the internet or computers. And that was always a wish that me and the doctors had, that we could somehow magic all this information together. And this is exactly what's happening now. I know in the States and in Asia and in Europe and in the UK, that people are putting this relevant information together. And I know all you people know each other from around the world, and you swap information, exchange your findings, and I think there's been great progression made in the knowledge and the care of PBC over the last 8-10 years anyway. So it's we keep buggering on, as Winston Churchill would say, and we'll get these answers, won't we? We'll get closer to it. So that's your answer for that lady. And I think here I would have gone to say there's a thought here that if there's no symptoms, if nobody's showing signs of symptoms, they don't always necessarily want to test for an AMA, because it can affect your life insurance. It could stop you getting a mortgage, because these institutions are traditionally very difficult to deal with, as you know. So there's always that thought as well. But, think about it, and I'm saying this to the audience here, think about it very carefully before you embark on that path. So anyway, next, I'm concerned due to unexplained and worsening asymptomatic osteoporosis. Although I feel 100% fit and healthy, and I had an ultrasound due to another issue a couple of years ago, which showed everything fine, including my liver. Good. Should I be worried, or can I ignore the discovery? There's not a lot of information to work with there. So really it's an unexplained worsening asymptomatic osteoporosis.
I mean, I think the concern is osteoporosis is a pretty, I would say, fear complication from PBC because of the absorption of vitamin D and how the liver disease basically metabolizes all the vitamins. But I would say, I don't know the patient's age or the other kind of comorbidities, but again, I would just suggest basically looking, asking back your GP or your primary care to make sure that they work up the osteoporosis and make sure there's nothing else happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. And if this person has got osteoporosis, you can have these DEXA scans in the UK. I think they're given every 3 or 4 years with PBC. But exercise is a good thing to do, and you can look up online, check with a physiotherapist. But exercise is weight-bearing exercise is very, very important. And there's good medications out there as well. So make sure you discuss all of that with your GP. Because it's a horrible illness if it takes hold. So I'm going on to another one here. Now, this lady has been on Mel for about 18 months. I've spoken to her a couple of times on the phone, Alan, and she's had very, very dark urine. She's had, liver pain and all sorts of things. And the hospital kept losing the test. She lives in a part of the country, unfortunately, we've just not got a great system in place. It's very unfortunate, and it's taken her a year to find out. They'd lost the AME results. They found them. They said to this morning she doesn't have the antimitochondrial antibody. However, she does have a raised ALP. She is concerned because her urine is like Coca-Cola. Sometimes her stool can be very, very, very light, and she just doesn't feel it's normal. There's no AMA. I know we've touched on this earlier. What can we suggest to this lady, Alan?
So I would say, elevated alk phos does not mean the patient has PBC. So there's a lot of reasons why a patient can have an elevated alk phos. But again, there's other, my concerning part of the story is the kind of the jaundice. It looks like the Coca-Cola color of the urine makes me think that she has more elevated bilirubin. So I would suggest, sounds like more advanced liver disease, make sure that they rule out other causes of a normal liver disease. A common one, even if we don't think about it, an elevated alk phos also could be a fatty liver. So I don't know. I don't know what the patient's, how does the patient look or how that person, have any comorbidities. But, the concerning part that I'm listening right now is just the jaundice. So I think that's something that needs to be worked up right away.
So this is a concern from what you've heard so far. So do you feel that, I have encouraged her, she's going to phone me back later, but am I right to encourage her to go back? And she was talking about going privately, and if she can afford to do that, then that's perhaps, but these symptoms should not be ignored. Is that fair? Yeah, right, okay. Right, I will certainly take, and it's possible also, because there's autoimmune hepatitis and there's PSC. But just as you mentioned, fatty liver disease, and we're not judging anybody here, and we're being absolutely clear on that, but people's weight has changed over COVID and lockdown, and people have become more anxious and maybe gotten into some bad habits. And I know that some people are struggling with their weight, and I make no judgments. And Alan, I know as a doctor, will make absolutely none whatsoever, but we'd be very keen to help you wherever we can. And so do bear in mind that if you are carrying extra weight, and you alluded to it, there's something called fatty liver disease. And this can be problematic with PBC, but even on its own without PBC, Alan, and fatty liver would actually show up in an ultrasound, wouldn't it?
Yes, that would show an ultrasound. But again, this is bring up a really good point, Collette. It's like, we have to think about there's dual diseases these days, because again, as you mentioned, so COVID actually, for the last 2 years changed our habits, but also we can say we're in the obesity epidemic for the last couple of years. So we're seeing patients with PBC and fatty liver. We're seeing patients with hepatitis C and fatty liver. So that's a combination. And unfortunately, it's like we call the dual hit, instead of you having one hit and takes 10, 15 years to develop cirrhosis, with 2 hits, actually expedites the liver disease, expedites the progress to cirrhosis. So we are seeing more patients younger, or basically with dual diseases coming into the hospital with complications of liver disease. So I would just encourage that even what we do with PBC, the ursodiol, we ask them to exercise, healthy lifestyle will actually treat the fatty liver part. So it's very important. Again, if you have a diabetes, you're obese, any of those things, just ask your primary care to screen you for fatty liver complications, because it's going to be the most common reason why people develop, will need a transplant in the future. So we should start looking at now.
Yeah. So okay, that's really very, very good to think about. And I would add to that and say I was just as guilty. I've recently lost 45 pounds. And I had a bit of fat in my liver, which gave me the nudge or the kick in the bum that I needed. And so I no longer have fat in my liver, and my liver function has dropped markedly. And I'm very proud of myself. Now, I never thought I could do that. So I'm saying to anybody out there, and I'm not saying do as I do and do as I say, but I will happily help you or talk you through some methods that might work for you. I know it can be done, and I would like to share what I think and feel, and what I've succeeded to do. And I've had some help do it, and I'm happy to share that help with you. But I would say to you, it's not just about the liver function and the fatty liver and the disease, but having more energy. And something else I'd forgotten about was stamina. I have more stamina, and I'm very pleased. I'm 65. I'm not a young woman by any means. And if I can share this, particularly with us old days, then come along with me in a journey and buddy up with me, and let's all try and do something for each other and together. I'm very much up for that. I'm not a nag. I'll never tell you what to do, but I would welcome you on my journey. I still want to lose some more weight because I do, but I'm enjoying the benefits of it. I never thought I could feel as well at my age. And I think when you get in your 60s, Alan, that you're very conscious that you've really got to work a bit harder to keep yourself fit and doing the things that we enjoy. We don't want to stop doing some of the fun things in life, And the fun thing for me is walking the dog and going up a hill without gasping for breath. So I just want to share that with everybody, but I'm not nagging. I just want to share. And if I can help, my team will help. They've been encouraging me all the way, and they know some of the pitfalls. They've all been behind me. So I'm more than happy to chat to anybody about that, or print off some recipes, or give you some thoughts. And even a pound a month. Hey, it's good, isn't it? So there we go. Now I've got a question. This person, they've not been diagnosed with PBC, but they were reading an article. They've had nightly itching down the front of their legs, and it drives them mad in bed at night. Change the sheets, done all the bedding. Should this person go and see if they have a liver disease?
I mean, the answer to that question is yes. So if the itching is that bad, they not let you sleep. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why people can develop severe itching, but one of them is liver disease. So I would ask that person to go to the GP, primary care, check their liver functions, and if they're elevated, actually just pursue an anti-mitochondrial antibody to make sure they rule out PBC.
Okay. Yeah, any itch, be suspicious of. So, and bearing in mind as well, not everybody itches, and people itch to varying degrees, and sometimes they've got a whack of it, and then nothing. It's a strange symptom, Alan. I'd love to, we'd all love to know what the cause was. Now, I've got a question here in front of me. Can you please let us know about the fourth vaccine for immune suppressed patients, please? The fourth vaccine. Does that mean something to you?
So, I mean, I'm working transplant, and I know there is a couple of articles, New York Times, I don't know what's in Europe, but they talk about the fourth booster. Right now, the FDA in the US, and I think also in the European Union, they only recommend a booster. We don't have data to support a fourth injection of a fourth booster at this moment. But again, once the data comes out, then we can talk about it. But right now we are recommending all immunosuppressed patients. So when we talk about immunosuppressed patients, is anyone who is taking immunosuppressive therapy, or they have an autoimmune condition, or they are on chemotherapy, they are recommending a booster. But again, based on the US recommendations from last week, everyone who has had 2 shots, it's recommend getting a booster if they had already their second shot more than 6 months ago. So I think everyone should be trying to get vaccinated with a booster as fast as they can, because what's going on.
Mhm. Now, this is a good point you raised about immunosuppressant, because people with PBC, as you know, there's a whole range of us, and we're here for years and years. And okay, taking aside cirrhosis or decompensated liver disease when you're sort of end stage or pre-transplant, where are you in that spectrum? At what point do you become an immune suppressed patient? Because I thought early stages, now I know nothing, I'm not a medic, as you know, is early stages, are we safer? I mean, obviously, if we don't have cirrhosis, maybe a touch of fibrosis, we still immune suppressed?
So there are two answers to that question. So number one, there's been some studies about COVID boosters and COVID vaccinations in people from early stage disease to late stage disease. And again, all of them benefit from getting the 3 shots. So there is no difference in immunity. So but there is a difference in immune response in people who are immunosuppressed in their post-transplant. I mean, this has been published multiple times. So people who had a transplant, if we look and check their spike antibodies, they are not as responsive as someone who actually pre-transplant. So we are in our center eager or welcome everyone who to be vaccinated even before they get a transplant, because we know they're not going to respond as well after transplant. So let's just answer your question about PBC, Collette. And this is I would say a semantic answer. PBC is an autoimmune condition, but technically you're not immunosuppressed, right? Because you're not taking immunosuppressive therapy. It is an immune condition because the way the pathophysiology of disease works. But again, based on the current recommendations that we have in the US and even in the UK, is everyone who is eligible getting the shots plus the booster should get it regardless of their condition. So we encourage everyone. So anyone coming to my clinic from a fatty liver to a PBC to a hepatitis C, we do ask them about getting COVID vaccinations, getting their boosters, because again, this is the only way we're going to stop what's going on around the world.
Okay. So can I ask you? This is a question from Collette now, right? Because I get this a lot on the phone. So if I'm sitting in your surgery and I'm sitting with you and I say to you, Dr. Bonder, I'm really frightened of the vaccine, what would you say to me?
So we do have a lot of, so I would say you are very typical patient who comes to see me with the same questions. I would say we have enough evidence, scientific evidence, that there are no risk of getting this vaccine. There are, there's been people saying about, reproductivity, which is never being actually proven to be the case. There's being studies about different things that people will develop. And I can tell you, based on the science that we have available, it's a safe vaccine. We should encourage everyone to get vaccinated. And actually, I really tell my patients, you should get vaccinated. So not only even COVID, patients coming to see me with fatty liver will often the flu shot, will often the COVID vaccine, hepatitis A, hepatitis B. This is the way to protect ourselves. We have vaccinations to protect ourselves. So we've been doing this for years. So I don't think there's any different with COVID. It's just basically COVID is actually a new player around the world. So we should try to cover as much as we can, and any patient coming to see us for any other type of conditions.
And it's worth saying, there's 2 things I'd like to raise, and I hope you don't mind, Alan. I do want to take this opportunity to allay fears and encourage people. Is that people say, it's a new vaccine. That is just not true. They've been working on this since 2003 when SARS came upon this earth. You knew that, didn't you, Alan? I mean, this is not a new vaccine per se. This method has been in the labs for a long time.
That's correct. But again, also, Collette, I think there's something very important to mention is your risk benefit. I would say we are seeing so many people dying from COVID now. It's like we've known that people who get vaccinated don't come into the hospitals. They don't go to the ICUs. They don't need to be intubated. So the risk, sometimes I tell my patients, okay, yes, we don't have maybe 30, 40 years of data proving that this is safe, but we have tons of data proving that this actually saved lives. So you're not going to be alive if you get COVID, but you're going to be alive if you get the vaccine. So this is something that we, really just try to mention to patients. I understand that a lot of patients would fear getting vaccinated. I know there's a lot of politics around the vaccination, but again, as physicians, we have enough science to say that they are safe and they are protecting lives. And then we encourage everyone to come to our clinics to get them done as soon as they can.
This is interesting. And what you see when we have these conversations, Alan, because this is recorded and we've got PBC TV on YouTube, I can direct people and say, would you go and listen to Dr. Bonder? And this is what he's had to say. And I'm going to make another point, Alan. I'm not going to name names. But you may remember you're a very young man, but some years ago, you will know of this. It hit the world press about a doctor, a British doctor who claimed that the MMR vaccine for measles, rubella, etc., was causing autism and could potentially kill children. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And the doctor, it was found that the research, it's just baloney research, and he was eventually struck off. He went over to America, and he's made quite a lot of money suing people and doing various things, which you would not expect a doctor to be involved in, let's put it that way. Now, I'm going to say this to everyone, this is really important. My husband's actually reading a book about him at the moment, the whole story, and it's written by a journalist, and every single page has been read by a team of lawyers, so he can't be sued. And so it's a factual book, and you can get it on Amazon. But I was horrified last year to see that man with a microphone in London addressing the crowds about the anti-vaccine. A doctor who's been struck off. Now, you know Dr. Geish in the States, Bob Geish, and I raised this with him, and Bob says, yes, what you often find is the anti-vaxxers are very wealthy. So I don't know how they become wealthy. I just want people to reflect on that. So you listen to people like Alan Bonder, which, you know, I've known for a little while now. My two next door neighbours are doctors. And you work with people like like David Jones, James Newberger, Andy Yeoman, all these giants. They're giants in the world of hepatology, and you'll notice yourself, Alan, they are the cream of the crop we've got involved with the PBC Foundation. And they are all singing from the same song sheet. So I would urge anybody who's watching this, listening to this, have doubts, or your family members or anybody, get them to listen to to this recording today, because this is important. I do believe in people having free choice. I absolutely do believe in that. But I want people to know the truth so as they can make a good and wise decision about their own life, because we're parents, we're grandparents, we're aunties. You know, people love us and care and want us to be well. So I would urge people, please look at some of these recordings, particularly today. Alan's gone into a bit of detail, which I'm very grateful for, Alan. And any questions, please contact us. Let us have your questions. We're happy to answer them. If we don't know the answer, I think we can pretty much go and find the answer. Is that not a fair comment, Alan? We know where to get it.
I wouldn't have all the
Sorry?
I wouldn't have all the COVID answers for sure, as you know, but you know, yeah. I think most of us are on the same page, and we are really encouraging everyone to try to basically get vaccinated, you know, because it's just saving lives. We're seeing so many people dying in the hospitals. It's very sad.
Yeah. Oh, you've gone again, Alan. I think he'll maybe just disappear out and come back in again, which he did the last. There we go. This is magic, isn't it? Hi. What are you doing to you over there?
I'm back.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for those comments. Now, I've got another question here. I love this question, Alan. I love it because it tells me this person is vibrant and cares about how they look. We love it. So the question is, Alan, would it be possible to ask if it's okay to have any treatments like Botox and fillers? If a person is on OCA, Urso, losartan, I'm not very good with drugs, losartan, D3, vitamin D, sertraline and folic acid, please. No one I've spoken to seems to know. I love this. This is somebody that cares how they look. Great.
So I would say, you know, there is no contraindication from a liver standpoint from our Urso obeticholic acid. Do you get any treatments with those type of medications? So I've never been asked those questions, but again, I have no issues if that patient wants to get them.
Yeah, I mean, I know quite a few people. Sadly, I haven't. I'm too old for it now. But it's too late for me. But I know quite a few people who do get fillers and Botox. You would never know. And so, you know, if that makes you feel good, but check for your doctor. There's nothing else going on. If they're happy, you know, good on you. Giving them before and after photographs. So the next question. I love people that really you can just tell this is a vibrant person, can you? So I think we've answered this. It's taking prednisolone or prednisone, I think you call it in the States, are you considered immune suppressed? Now, I think you did
Yes.
say yes to that.
The answer to that question is yes.
Okay. Now, given that some people will take prednisone or such thing for a period of time, and I know I was on it for 9 months, and it was a risk benefit thing. They weren't sure if I had I can't remember what you call it now. And, you know, so how long after you stopped, you know how they bring you down from prednisone, so how long afterwards would you be considered to be kind of not immune suppressed?
So this is a good question. So I would say some people that need chronic prednisone use, you remember our own body produces prednisone. So the adrenal gland produces prednisone. It's one of the most important kind of like hormones that we have to regulate the sugars, a lot of stuff in the body. So there's different reasons why people need prednisone. Sometimes people use it, for example, for COPD, for just even a viral infection. But other people use it for example, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. Those patients, I would say they get blasted with a high dose of prednisone, 60 milligrams, 80 milligrams, and they start coming down. Those are the patients that I'm worried about immunosuppression, because people really, for example, some patients have been using it for 7, 8, 9 months, and they take 5 milligrams of prednisone. Those patients are not immunosuppressed. Basically, their body needs the use of that prednisone because, unfortunately, the body stopped making it because someone is giving it to them by mouth. So that is two different things that we need to consider. But again, you know, for example, when there's a new transplant patient, we give them a really high doses of prednisone. Like we do like a gram of, of oximeter, which is an IV prednisone. That's a huge dose. So someone who's coming with rejection, or someone coming with a rheumatoid arthritis flare or lupus flare, they get 60 or 80 milligrams. So that's different than someone who's using them chronically, like 5 or 7.5 milligrams on a daily basis. So those two patients are completely different.
Right. Okay. Well, that's really interesting. Yeah, it was giant cell arteritis. This was suspicion, but it's such a serious thing. They have to treat you if they can't definitely rule it out. Yeah, that wasn't nice. Right now, here's an interesting one now, because we've been covering parts of this. But if it's, I'm 52 and I'm lucky. I've just been diagnosed with fatty liver. I've had PBC for 10 years, and my gastro says she is not worried about me. Obviously wants me to lose weight, but I'm finding it difficult. Okay, I keep gaining even though I eat healthier and well. Does Urso make you gain weight? Yes.
That's the answer you want to hear?
Go on, Alan. I'll let you answer it.
So the answer to that question is no, but I think just ruling out other things. So patients with PBC have a chance, increased chances of getting thyroid disease. So for example, you're gaining weight too fast, checking your thyroid and making sure that's not the reason that you're gaining weight and that's causing the fatty liver. But the other piece of information is, remember, with fatty liver, we really want to make sure you don't develop any problems with the fatty liver. So we do elastography. Same we do an elastography for PBC, we would like to get an elastography for PBC, for like a fatty liver, just to make sure they don't have any advanced liver disease, or they don't have with the two conditions, worsening or, advance of their liver disease.
Yeah, they said when I first went on Urso in 1996, when it was first licensed, I think, that because I put on weight, well, I was shocked about it, and they said no. And people like Gideon Hirschfield and David Jones will say, yes, a certain amount, but don't blame all your weight gain on Urso, which we tend to do, which is fair, very fair. So it's yes and no, maybe or maybe not. However, what I would say to this person, please phone me. I would very much like to speak to you. And I'm speaking from someone who I'm unashamedly to tell you that I have tried every single diet in the book. Every single diet, you name it, I've done it. I could I could write papers. And I'm like a lot of people that had weight problems. And I was never overweight as a young person. It started when I was on Urso. And then I got into a bit of a mindset. I now realise that looking back. But we're all very different, and what works for one doesn't necessarily work for someone else. And there's no doubt that reducing calories is the way forward. But I would very much like to talk to this person. You're only 52, you're a young woman. And I would very much like, to maybe present you with some ideas that you might want to try yourself. Nothing drastic. We don't want to do this drastic. We want to enjoy your life, have a good quality of life. I enjoy being with family and friends, when we eat or whatever. But I very much like to speak to you further, and let's see if we can get even just a few pounds off and get you into a frame of mind where you get to know your body a bit better. I think that's what it's about, isn't it, Alan? Is learning what it is, what's right for us,
Yeah, I agree. Again, I would say a balanced, healthy lifestyle. Again, we're humans and we really like to enjoy ourselves, as you're saying. So again, just trying to make sure that we have a balanced life, make sure that this fatty liver is not really affecting the PBC or the liver, and then you can go ahead and continue what you're doing.
Yeah, and and everybody is different, and sometimes what you must be careful of is processed food. Ready-made food, and picking up the phone or going to the app and get a carry in or a carry out or whatever. I remember my niece put up online, does anybody know where I can get a nice meal in Leith? And I couldn't resist it. I said, your kitchen. I just she said, okay, auntie. But just be very mindful of processed pre-prepared food, because it's full of nonsense. I don't know, but I know a lot of people that can actually taste E numbers as I did. And I know we get tired and what have you, but there's nothing better than if you've got somebody with even do a bit batch cooking on a Sunday, prepare a few meals, get them in the freezer, healthy things, healthy meals like we did in the old days, and not the pizzas and all that sort of nonsense. I like a good cottage pie, homemade soups, I can make any soup known to man because we were poor as kids and that's what we did, and it was nutritious and we weren't overweight. So look at what you eat. And sugar, my opinion only, I have no medical qualifications. I think sugar is the most addictive substance on this earth. I really do. I see people and I see they want more and they want more, and my heart goes out to them. I really do. So, but watch the sugar, watch it on labels as well. Nag over. Okay, you're very slim, Alan. I don't suppose you've ever had a weight problem in your life.
Thank you.
Right, now here's a good question, and I'm not sure we've got enough information. We're going to give it a bash. With the new COVID variant out now, I heard the boosters are not for the new COVID spreading. Is this correct?
I mean, I don't have the answer. This is to be determined in the next couple of weeks. So we're waiting to hear from everyone, the FDAs and even the vaccination companies to tell us data about this. So I don't have an answer for that question right now.
I speak to a number of virologists, and it's not looking as if that's going to be the case. But my understanding is, and I know you're not a virologist, Alan, but I know you're a pretty brilliant doctor. But my understanding is that viruses do mutate and they do change. And I've heard a number of people saying it may take a 5-year span for this to, mutate and change and be far more manageable, and that the endemic is coming soon. We're in the pandemic, but it is coming soon. And these viruses want to live, but it is absolutely natural for them to change and to weaken. And there's going to be new strains all the time. But I think what we shouldn't be doing is panicking. And as you say, and it's very difficult as well, waiting to get the evidence, and to see what that says. And I know there's different feelings. People are saying, I don't want to wear a mask. Should we wear masks? And are they really helpful? I don't know. I think the jury's out on that one as well, Alan, isn't it? I mean, is there any evidence about masks?
I mean, yes, there's tons of evidence about masks. But again, I think the message, Collette, is the same thing. Try to get vaccinated, try to get booster, because the only way to stop this is getting vaccinated. So I think we really don't know if the vaccines will help against these new variants. But again, what we do know is that the vaccines work really well, and they will prevent people getting hospitalized and even dying from this. So again, masks, hand hygiene, vaccinations are really the only thing that we know that scientifically proved to save lives. So again, this is the message I think we've been saying since the beginning, and we have to continue to really advocate for the same things. Until we really get everyone vaccinated, this is really not going to stop. So again, I know there's a lot of panic about what's just really happening around the world, but we really need to encourage everyone to get vaccinated.
Can I add another thing here, just because it was, Palak Trivedi? Do you know Palak?
Yes.
Dr. Trivedi, right? Palak. Okay, so he had COVID from his. A lot of doctors are picking up COVID from the kids from school. And what he suggested, and it actually saved a friend of mine's life, was something called an oximeter, which you put your finger into and it registers your oxygen. And he said we should all have one in the bathroom cabinet. You can buy them on Amazon for a few shillings. And do you want to explain how the oximeter, what we should be looking for, and the numbers that should be relevant if we were to catch COVID, Alan?
I mean, that's a good point. I'm not the person who will encourage getting an oximeter for everyone, but again, yeah. So oximeter is a very cheap thing to get on Amazon. You put your finger, and basically what you're looking is the oxygenation saturation, how well you're oxygenating, and then what you're looking for is just to make sure that it's really above 94, 95%. Once people develop COVID, and the main thing that basically worries us is basically their oxygen starts dropping. So this is the people who really need to come into the hospital to get treatment. We have also really good new medications. We have the monoclonal antibody. There are just 2 medications that just got approved. So again, we have more stuff that we can give patients if they get vaccinated, and unfortunately they get COVID and they actually end up with low oxygen. So yes, I will encourage it to get it, monitor your oxygen, but again, let's just go a step back with it. Let's just prevent of happening.
Yes, good point.
Let's just wear a mask, get vaccinated. Again, unfortunately, not all the kids are able to get vaccinated. Again, in the US, I don't know what's in the UK. In the US, 5 to 12 kids are already getting. So we encourage everyone to get their kids vaccinated, because this is exactly how the circle is going to break. So again, we need to be preventing more than actually going all the way and getting oximeters. And how are we going to prevent, you going to the hospital? If people get vaccinated, people wear a mask, people really do their thing, this is going to be easier to manage.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a good point. But if you're at risk, do buy an oximeter.
Yes.
No, it did. My friend, he was in his late 70s, and it did save his life. It did indeed, and I thanked Palak for that. So yeah, it's there. So I've got now. This is a bit troubled by this. So this person, I don't know if it's a lady or a gentleman, has been feeling very weak for a long time now, and has just had iron through a drip in hospital, and now have to have an echocardiogram this Sunday. Is the weakness to do with PBC? This is it.
So again, fatigue, I want to call it weakness, I'm going to call it severe fatigue. And severe fatigue, it's a symptom that really comes with PBC. And unfortunately, we don't have really good treatments for it. So what we've shown in the PBC world is people with PBC who exercise do better from the fatigue perspective. But again, we need to make sure we rule out other conditions causing the fatigue. So in that person's case, getting iron infusions, so the anemia could be one, getting echocardiogram, heart failure, or other cardiovascular diseases could be another explanation. So it is important to rule everything out. And again, one big one in PBC, don't forget about depression, It's a vicious cycle. You don't move, you get depressed, you don't move. So again, depression is a big one. So again, there's a big kind of differential diagnosis that we need to kind of do, so making sure we diagnose the patient properly.
Yeah, so I think whoever this person is, have your test completed. I'm sorry you're having to have infusions of iron, and I hope it does perk you up and you feel better quicker than Sunday as you're waiting for your echocardiogram. But once your tests are complete and you've got your treatments complete, then maybe give me a wee ring and we can talk about this, because we can buy into more energy, and to do less is not really helpful. But you've got a way to go, because there could, as Alan was saying, there could be other things turn up, thyroid or whatever, heart failure. You just don't know. And the fatigue, and I would say as well, Alan, that the fatigue with PBC, I remember James Newberger had hepatitis years ago, and he said to me, there isn't a word to describe how I felt. It's not tired, it's not lethargy, it's walking in tired, it's all of the above. It's very different. People just assume tired is sleepiness, and if you've got PBC, you're tired and you sleep, because you will feel even lousier when you wake up. But it's a funny sort of thing. Difficulty lifting your hands with a hairdryer, walking is like walking in tar. Just a feeling of being deflated, of somebody's pushing in a chair. It's a strange, and it has different arms and legs to it. So, but I very rarely hear people use the word weakness, as this person has said. So I suspect, there's other things going on, and I really hope they get to the bottom of it and you get good treatment. I'm sure that iron drips infusion will make a huge difference. Iron deficiency is a very, very wearing and tiring thing to suffer from. So I think we've come to the end of I think we've got one more question. So I had my very first appointment. I have my very first appointment at the liver clinic after being diagnosed 4 weeks ago. Okay, so this is early days for this person. Is there any questions you suggest I ask? Wow. Okay, Alan. He's frozen. He's come back in again.
You can see me?
Did you get that question, Alan?
Yes, I did. And I would say the biggest thing you want to make sure is kind of stage the disease. So get an answer about how advanced or not advanced is the disease. Number one is make sure you get your ursodiol if you're diagnosed with PBC. Make sure they weigh you, they dose you correctly for the PBC. Make sure you get checked for your thyroid, you get a bone density, and also get your shots, get your flu shot, get your pneumonia shot based on your age. Again, make sure that you are eligible for every single vaccine that's out there and make sure that you're protected. So then again, from a PBC perspective, make sure that you check your blood test, the next year or so, making sure you're responding to therapy, make sure you're complying with therapy. And again, I think I'm going to encourage that, the UK PBC has a great app with all the tools that you need. The guidelines are there. You can actually post it in that app about rating your fatigue, rating your itching. And just don't forget to ask every question that's out there. I mean, I don't know what questions a patient have, but, I think it is important to ask a lot of questions about the disease because it's not a common condition. And then again, it's called one of the weird diseases in the world. So again, so we really, as physicians, we really like to make sure that we answer all the questions. Patients really have all the, want to make sure that they are not linked to other things. Mm-hmm. So again, as a new encounter, the biggest thing is making sure you don't have advanced liver disease. After that, you have a 70% chance that ursodiol will treat it. You'll be in good response. You'll be in remission. But if not, we have really good options. But again, I think looking for the app, looking for all those things. If you have fatigue, try to start exercising. That's the biggest things that we do in my first encounter with patients. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it does. And sometimes you're so hitting the headlights, you don't know what to ask. But that's all right, because if you've got stacks of information for you, that's absolutely fine. And because there's about 15,000 of us in the foundation, we're all different shapes, sizes, ages. I mean, our oldest lady was 103 when she passed away. And her biggest problem was worrying about her two daughters. Well, they were in their late 70s and didn't want to be worried about, So, but you think about what you would like to know. I know people want to know how long they've got. They always say, how long I've got to live? And there's things online that say you've only got 5 years. Don't pay any attention to that nonsense. You want to read about PBC, you go onto the PBC Foundation website. As Alan says, the app is there. By the way, everybody, we've got a new questionnaire in the app, and this is good for our American friends as well. This is a bit of a run-up for information for the FDA. I'm speaking to the FDA in February. About the desperate need for more treatments for quality of life with PBC, etc., etc. So it's exciting times. So we need people, we need your experience. You've got PBC, everybody out there, you're living with it. We want to know. It's a short, quick, fast survey. Robert and Chris put it together, and it's going to the FDA, and it's going to the Global Liver Foundation as well, which is based in the States. So we are working in partners with our American friends, and we're going to get that information. We're going to get stacks of it, and we need you to do it. So please fill in the questionnaire. I better do it as well. I'll do it today, I promise.
I think to add to this thing is most of us who are PBC doctors, we do have clinical trials. So just reach out to us, and we have options. Again, this is a very exciting times for patients with PBC. Yeah. I think, since 2016, we have now coming close to 10 new medications that will treat PBC. So, and they're really very good medications. So I think encourage everyone, if you have PBC and you're not responding to your usual therapy, reach out to us. We might help you with either new clinical trials or other things that we can offer you. But again, it's very important to really it's such an unusual disease. We need people so we can go to the FDA and get medications approved so we can basically find a cure for this condition.
Well, absolutely, that's right. And I'm very keen to speak to the FDA in America. And I hope they're very keen to listen to what I have to say. But I have 25 years and all your experience behind me, and I've heard it all. And I've experienced it all, and I've heard the tears, and I've put my arm around people, and I live it and breathe it, and it is my life, PBC. And Alan is 100% right. They can't help us until we tell them what we need. So this is our opportunity. There was no apps when I did this 25 years ago. There was nothing. And we have it here now, and we're going to use it because we're going to find that cure before. And then I can bloody retire. I promise you that's next. And then we can all go home. But no, this is an important step for us. And as Alan says, you know, doctors want to know. They absolutely want. And this is exciting time. So please download the app. And if there's anybody out there who's not actually a member of the foundation, please join. We don't ask you to pay for it. We won't take, we don't refuse donations, but please do join us and download the app and use it as a tool, you know, for your own management, but help the doctors help us, I think. And we do work well with the doctors. It's not like in the old days, they were gods and we were minions. It's really, we're the gods. No, I don't mean that. No, but we work on a very equal basis. And I'll tell you, you know, the people, by the way, we did an online survey, Alan, of what we've been doing best since COVID. And these questionnaires have come up time after time. And people are delighted they're getting the expert, because we've got the best people in the world doing these things, the expert help. And people can't get, sometimes in the UK and other countries can't get near a doctor because of COVID and they're being redeployed and everything. And sometimes people have brought things on here and the doctor has clocked that this is serious and directed it to that person to a place where they would get help and help quite quickly. So there'd be multifactorial, but we're so grateful to you and your fellow hepatologists for giving us your time and your expertise, Alan. It's just been absolutely wonderful. And as we sort of close down 2021, I look back and I just can't thank you all enough. You've been amazing. We cover, I don't know, about 40 questions in these sessions. With James Newberg, it's less because he's very slow when he tells you something. He gives you a great explanation. But it's wonderful. And it is making a difference. It makes a difference to people's lives and the quality of their life, Alan. And I need you to know that and share that with your colleagues. I know, who's the lovely lady, the Hispanic lady? What's her name? In the States, you did there was a presentation quite recently about the itch. What's the hepatologist, the Spanish lady?
You're talking about Cynthia?
Cynthia
Levy.
Cynthia Levy, yes. She was lovely to have her on board from the States, and of course Bob Geese, your old pal, Bob. And it's been wonderful for our American members as well to know that they are included in this big bubble we have. So Alan, I'm going to thank you so much. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to wish you an amazing Christmas. I hope you have some time off, not too long because we need you. And hopefully we'll see you in the new year. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Alan, thank you for organising all this. Thank you to people in the back office as well, doing all the things that they do. Linda's hammering stuff down to me, big style. And Chris is sitting there scribbling the notes as Chris does. But thank you, everybody. And we'll see you last one next week with Professor Jones. Hopefully, things aren't going well for David at the moment, but we wish him well. So Alan, million thanks. And thank you for all that you've had to say about COVID and the vaccine as well. Absolutely spot on.
Absolutely. Thank you both very much. Another great session. And as Collette says, Alan, hopefully we'll see you again next year.
Yeah,
all the best, a good festive season.
Okay.
Bye just now, everybody. I'll just close everything down.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.